Hey everyone, I'm Nate Lambert with Red River, and today we're going to talk about how to password protect a Microsoft Excel file on your Windows 10 workstation. All right, so jumping right into things, today we're going to talk, as we stated at the top, about how you should be password protecting your Excel files when you are transmitting them around via email or Teams. The first thing we want to just talk about is maybe why to do this, and then we'll jump into how. Obviously, Excel documents and any other Word documents you have will have a number of different, sensitive information items in there, from passwords to personal information or maybe HIPAA compliant information. So whenever we're transmitting those things, we always want to encrypt that information to the best of our ability, but putting a Microsoft password on the document is a really, really good way to just ensure that it's only for your intended audience. You can then send them the password in a separate means. So if you email the file to them, you can message the password to them in Teams or something else, and just ensure that they're not in the same place. So it's definitely a pretty good practice to get into the habit of. So we're going to jump right into our top secret, ultra secret file here in Excel. And what you're going to notice when I open the file is that there is no password to open it right now, right? So I'm able to just open this as a general user, and I see all this important information, username and password stored right here in plain text. So this is great if this is information that I'm supposed to be seeing, but if you or someone else isn't supposed to be seeing this information, then that's a pretty large scale violation. From a security posture perspective, obviously we want to avoid writing down passwords and storing information like this whenever possible. But it's sometimes a necessary evil, right? And sometimes it's just information like compensation details, salary information for your team that you're going to have to store in a workbook somehow. And you can't really get around it, but you still want to make sure that it's not necessarily something everyone can see. So the process in Microsoft Excel is relatively simple to save a file like this. So we have all of our information here. When you come up to File, Save As, you can select whatever directory you want. So let's say this is a pretty critical item, but in this case, I'm just going to save it to the desktop. And this all looks pretty standard, right? This looks kind of like the normal way you might save something to OneDrive or to your local desktop. In this instance, what I'm going to do is I'm going to browse so that I open up this kind of more legacy Microsoft save window or Windows view you're probably used to seeing. I'm then going to find the desktop or repository that I'd like to store it into. And I'm going to confirm the standard things I confirm when any file is being saved, just its name, the type, who the author is, if I have any tags or anything I would like to put onto it. Once I've got all that information stored and ready to go, I'll come down to Tools, and you'll see in this little drop-down menu, you've got a couple of options here. And I'm going to select on General Options for this particular instance. What's going to happen here is it's going to then ask me to create one or two passwords. You can do either or, and those would be to open the file or to modify the file. In this situation, you can also select to make the file read-only, which is that it's going to default the file into read-only when you send it to someone, and that can help with data integrity, making sure people don't modify the document if they're just supposed to be consuming the information, not editing it. So for this particular one, I'm going to adjust the password here to something that I know. And in that situation, I'm going to use open and modify for this because I'd like them to have to enter the password to essentially get access to edit the information. I'm sending, in this situation, I'm sending it to a peer or somebody that I do want them to make some changes, but I want them to use the password first. It's then going to ask you to re-enter your password just to confirm, like any kind of standard item. It does, and this is worth noting that if you password protect a file in Excel, you do want to be careful making sure you've got the password something that you've remembered and you've documented, because you can have some challenges recovering this password. So use this when you need to, but make sure you're being a little bit judicious with how many passwords you're assigning or how complex the passwords are. You don't want to forget one. And then I'm going to, as well, make the password the same for opening and modify. Just as a general best practice note here, if you have two different audiences, maybe you have someone in your group you'd like to give them the password to open it, but they don't have rewrite access, you could make these passwords separate. For the sake of this demo, I'm making them the same. And then I'm just going to go save the document. And actually, just for, I'll save this as password protected, so I know which one is which. All right, so now that everything looks the same on my Excel, I still have the opportunity to kind of add, move, and change anything I need, but let me close this out now. And on my desktop, I now see the password protected one we just created. When I open it this time, I get the field pop up that's going to request me to access the password. So for this instance, I made the password password1. But if I were to just type in password, it's going to tell me that that's incorrect, right? It's going to say that's not the correct password, check cap locks, make sure everything's ready to go. And then it'll just shut the file. So now I can't open it, right? Because I've incorrectly entered the password. So let me close this and try again. So as you can see, for this particular one, we entered 2 passwords, one to open it, one to modify. So I got the first one correct, password1, and now it's asking me for the second password so that I can read and write and actually modify the item. So what I'm going to do is enter the password in and click OK. This would be where if you had those 2 audiences like we talked about, you could just tell them and instruct them to just select read only, which would mean they'd be able to open it but not edit it. If I enter the password correctly again, now I'm here. Now I could come in and delete, change, new admin. I can make all the changes to the document I would want because I had those passwords, which is pretty good. So that was a quick overview of how to password protect your Microsoft Excel workbooks. It's really something you should get in the habit of doing, and I'd like to see more people doing it when they're sending around sensitive information. That's all we have for you this time, but please like, rate, review, subscribe on this YouTube video. Be sure to check back next time for more tips and tricks on how to be more secure using your Windows 10 machines.